points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Jets dropping a 3-2 decision tonight in Vancouver. The second half of back-to-back contest does not go the Winnipeg Jets' way. Thatcher Demko is the difference maker in tonight's game, if you would ask me. A tremendous performance by the excellent Vancouver Canucks goaltender. The Jets fought hard, coming back from 2 goals down on 2 separate occasions, but they were absolutely unable to get the tying goal, and as a result, they lose tonight's contest by a 3-2 margin. I am your host, Drew Mandel, joined by Ezra Ginsburg in the bottom middle. Dave Manouk's head is on fire in the top right. We welcome you to the post-game show. Nice to see so many of you joining us late night, Friday night. Always appreciate you being here. If you're new here, please smash that like button. If you haven't done so before, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get alerted each and every time we go live here with the Illegal Curve post-game show, or in 9 hours and 21 minutes time, the Illegal Curve hockey show. Gentlemen, I thought that the Winnipeg Jets performance tonight on the second half of a back-to-back was admirable, would be the word that I would use. To me, your TSN turning point. And you hate to pick on the guy, but sometimes you just got to be, you got to be a truthful analyst. Blake Wheeler's undisciplined penalty, coupled with the Winnipeg Jets failing penalty kill, is to me the difference in tonight's contest and the reason why the Vancouver Canucks end up with a 3-2 victory tonight.
There's no doubt, Drew, that the Blake Wheeler penalty, first off, it was a terrible penalty, right? Like in the offensive zone, just a lazy penalty. So yeah, there's no doubt that was a turning point, or, one of the reasons why the Jets lost this game. In addition to Thatcher Demko, as you mentioned, he played really well. And, we know he could be one of the goalies for Team USA at the Olympics if the NHL goes, right? We know that Hellebuck and Gibson are most likely going to be 1-2, but Demko's trying to get in there as well. But, sure, look at the Canucks came into this game like with all types of controversy swirling around them. They've just been playing really bad, right? Like we know they're winless in their last 5 games. They hadn't scored a power play goal, right? So they score a couple power play goals tonight, of course, right? Because the power play was struggling so much, and they go up against the Jets, who have had so many issues with the penalty kill. But I mean, the Jets had so many good opportunities in this game, and we can start off with Nick Ehlers, who obviously, continues his goal scoring streak. He had the goal yesterday and just scored another beauty. Like that was Quinn Hughes, guys, that he pulled that move on. Like say whatever you want about Quinn Hughes. And I happen to, be in the camp that thinks he's, one of the best young defensemen in the league. He happens to be on a terrible team. But I mean, that type of goal, there aren't that many, like Ehlers, McDavid, McKinnon, there's only a few guys that can do that on Quinn Hughes. It's all skating, right?
Well, he's skating. And when he skates, he flies basically. Then he jams on the brakes, turns his back completely to the goaltender. Like he's facing Eric Comrie and not Thatcher Demko, and then spins and fires. I mean, it was a remarkable piece of play from a fantastically skilled player. You can't teach that. That's just something you have inherently in your game. And we've been fortunate enough to watch Nikolai Ehlers do things like that for a number of years now. And when that happened, you just got to say, wow. I mean, just the skill set that it takes to be able to pull off a move like he did there, which cut the Canucks lead from 2-0 to 2-1, was just absolutely remarkable, Ezzy.
I agree 100%, Drew. And, we are really being treated to some amazing hockey from Ehlers specifically. I mean, the Jets are also playing really well right now, but Ehlers, this might be, he could easily, break, individual, career best, right? So, that was an incredible goal. But overall, I mean, the Scheifele, Ehlers, Kopp line guy was clearly the best line tonight, right? Like, you know, Dubois, Connor, and Wheeler, like they had some good looks and they had some good chances. Obviously, you know, they were on the ice for the second goal that the Jets scored, but you know, Scheifele, Ehlers, and Kopp were dangerous. They had some grade A opportunities all night long. So, I mean, I was really impressed. And you're right. I mean, second game of a back-to-back, and you know, it was pointed out in the chat, like the Jets have only lost 2 games in regulation out of their last 15 or 14, and they're both in the second game of back-to-backs, right? So, I mean, look at I thought, you know, Comrie played, you know, very well. You know, I think the first goal that was scored by Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I mean, you know, there might have been, you know, traffic coming into play, Dave. So, you know, that wasn't, you know, necessarily a goal that, you know, Comrie's going to like. But the other 2 goals didn't think, you know, were his fault at all. You know, and so, you know, the Canucks were desperate. You know, that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say here, right? Like they, I think, wanted to silence all these critics. Like you had a lot of people that were calling for Jim Benning to be fired, guys. You had a lot of people that were saying Travis Green should be fired. A lot of people have been criticizing Elias Pettersson, who is clearly, you know, the Canucks' most skilled player. And, you know, look at this Canucks team most likely isn't going to make the playoffs, but this is one of those games, even though the Jets had a lot of scoring chances. And you could say that, you know, as Drew mentioned, Demko goalie the Jets. I mean, the Canucks, you know, took advantage of their opportunities on the power play, and they played well enough to win, and they needed that win.
They absolutely did need that win, and you could see that they were certainly a desperate team, and as a result, you know, they got some of the, you know, it reminds me of when the Jets played. When the Jets were going through their struggles last year, when they lost those 7 games in a row to the Canadian teams, and then they finally sort of got that game. I think it was against Calgary, if I'm not mistaken, where they were able to sort of just get all the bounces their way, and they got the breaks that they needed to win the game. You know, and that's not to say that the Jets didn't outplay Vancouver, because I think they did. You know, at 5-on-5, the Jets were the better of the 2 teams. But, you know, when you're giving up, you know, 2 power play goals, you know, a game, and we've talked about this for a while now, it makes it very difficult to win. And the Jets, it's not like the Canucks had a good power play coming into the game. They didn't. They had an atrociously bad power play, as he mentioned. The Jets' penalty kill is just so unsure of itself. It was the nicest way I can often describe it, that when they get a successful kill on the penalty, it's more of a surprise than it is anything else. And tonight, against the Vancouver team that's struggling and without confidence, a passive penalty kill like the one that the Jets deploy, I think is just playing into the opponent's hand. You know, it's one thing if your penalty kill is passive when you have Connor Hellebuyck in net. Not to take anything away from Eric Comrie in tonight's game, because I certainly don't think he was the problem for the Jets. I don't think this is a loss you can put on his shoulders. But, you know, when you have a passive penalty kill, you have your backup goaltender, you have a team on the second half of a back-to-back, to me, Dave, it just seems to play everything into your opponent's hand, you know, and clearly the Canucks were able to capitalize on the man advantage, getting 2 goals on the power play, whereas the Jets didn't even have a power play opportunity in the course of a game. Something that to me is just, I believe that's the second or third time this year that's occurred. And to me, that is not something that's realistic. And that's something that, I mean, I think we know that there's a problem with officiating in the NHL, game in and game out, and that there's absolutely no consistency. And when you have a team like the Jets, as skilled as they are and as playing as well as they are at 5-on-5, to not draw 1 penalty, something stinks a little bit when that happens. Not to say that the referees were the difference here either. I mean, full marks to the Canucks for their victory, but a lot of things you just don't like about that.
Well, I mean, look at the 5-on-5 chances. Scoring chances were 28-15 in favor of the Jets. High danger chances were 8-4 in favor of the Jets. And expected goals were 2.41 to 1.25 at 5-on-5 for the Winnipeg Jets. So if you look at it, you just, if you didn't watch the game, you would say, well, the Jets probably win those games more often than they lose those types of games. Sure. Now, they didn't, of course. And one of the things the Jets have to figure out is their penalty kill, because it is atrocious. And it's funny because, I was, and it's a little early for the Moose Minute, so we're not going to get there just yet. Yeah. But,
After the commercial.
The Moose did come into tonight's game against Milwaukee as the number 1 penalty killing unit in the AHL. So you got the 31st ranked penalty killing unit in the NHL, and the first ranked. Now they're the fourth because they did give up a goal tonight. Maybe I jinxed them, but the truth is they're the top 5 PK in the AHL right now. And these teams always talk about running the same systems. Well, if you're running the same systems and the guys who are playing the PK aren't getting it done, and you have them there, I mean, what's Paul Maurice's big theory about why you have to have certain guys to be able to play in your lineup? Well, they have to be able to do more than one thing. Well, right now they're not doing more than one thing very successfully more often than not when the power play, when they're shorthanded, and that's a problem. Yeah. And so if you can't extricate yourself from these situations that you put yourself into, with some of these penalties you're taking, that's going to be a huge problem for your team. So yeah, I mean we've talked about it for a while. Look, we knew based on all the changes in personnel from last year to this year that the penalty kill was going to require an overhaul in terms of the players that were on it, right? Well, you've done that, but how is it that 15 games in, or more than 15 games in, sorry, you're still struggling to this point with the team that's you have guys who should be able to do this. It's not a rocket, it really isn't. What do they say?
Rocket science?
No, I was trying to think of something else. But anyways, yeah, rocket science. Fine, there. Let's go there. But it really isn't. It's not a difficult concept. But yet the Jets keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what do they say about the definition of insanity? When you keep trying the same thing over and over again, not getting a different result, but thinking maybe this time it'll happen. Well, there's a bit of Charlie Brown syndrome right now with the Winnipeg Jets and the penalty kill. And unless you figure that out, I mean, 5-on-5 is where games are won generally, but look what happened in tonight's game, right? That's the difference in the score right there if you don't give up those 2 power play goals.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out who Peppermint Patty is, but I guess we'll let maybe the chat figure that out. But Drew, if we get into the goals here, we probably want to start with the Oliver Ekman-Larsson goal and the Ehlers goal. But if I can skip ahead to the goal that we talked about, that turns out to be the game-winning goal, Connor Garland's goal. Garland's a really good player. We talked about when that trade happened. I mean, Garland. We were surprised that the Coyotes were moving him after having a career year, but Garland is just so wide open. And I watched the game live, of course, but I also PVR'd that maybe not PVR'd is the wrong word, but I went back and I watched that goal a couple of times. And I agree with Dave. Like Adam Lowry, Andrew Kopp, those are your 2 best penalty killers, or 2 of your best penalty killers. So that hasn't changed. Neil Pionk is out there still, Dave, right? Like, so, Dominic Toninato, you've got Riley Nash. Like, these are good NHL penalty killers. So I agree. The Jets penalty kill shouldn't be this bad. But on that goal, you had Dillon and Pionk in the corner. I wrote it down, but I don't have it in front of me right now. But I know it was Alex Chason and it might have been JT Miller. There were 2 Canucks and 2 Jets defensemen in the corner to the left of Eric Comrie. And they both went there, and Dominic Toninato, and again, I'm not, singling him out because I think he's a great player, and we talked about how good he's been on the 4th line, but on this particular play, Toninato comes over there, and he's kind of stuck in no man's land. He's watching, those 4 players, and the Jets have the numbers there. It's a 2-on-2 situation, right? So you could say he's there for support, but the problem is, then Riley Nash now has to cover 2 guys. So he has to decide who he's going to cover. Connor Garland was just completely wide open. That's why I say, like, on that goal, you can't fault Comrie because Garland basically has enough time to, make a steak sandwich there. And then he comes in and he rips it short side, right? So look at in that particular case, I mean, you could overanalyze it and you could say that, the Jets positioning wasn't right or they're too passive. I agree with Drew. Like when you look at some of the better penalty killing teams in the league, they are on the puck a lot quicker and they just force the play a lot more. And I think, you wonder if the Jets coaching staff, if they have talked about that internally, because we certainly have not seen a change. And maybe we'll get into it more, Drew, on tomorrow morning show. But like, you wonder if they've tried to, we talk about it all the time. The NHL is a copycat league. You wonder if the Jets have tried, to duplicate some more of those aggressive, successful penalty kills, because, right now, as Dave said, you can't keep going with the current strategy you have. Like the Jets are just giving up way too many power play goals and it's costing them hockey games.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right, Ezzy. I mean, I don't believe that they've probably done anything to try and change it, because this is the system that they put into place in training camp, and this is the same system that they've had in place, for the last couple of years, and it's been heavily reliant on Connor Hellebuck, and it's been heavily reliant on shots not coming from quote unquote high danger spots. Well, shorthanded. Well, I mean, the Connor Garland goal is a complete and total breakdown, as you just so eloquently, outlined.
I don't know
That's
if it's
not
eloquent, Drew, but I appreciate it.
for you, it was pretty eloquent. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
actually
For me,
you get more eloquent as the closer it gets to midnight. It's sort of impressive that way, you know. But it's a complete breakdown all around, and sometimes those things happen, and that can happen with a passive penalty kill, and that can happen with an aggressive penalty kill. But then you go back to the first goal of the game, and that's the Oliver Ekman-Larsson power play goal at the 13:51 mark of the first period. And they're just passing. The Jets are collapsing so low, and the Canucks have all day to pass the puck back and forth to try and set either Pettersson or to set Ekman-Larsson up for the shot. I just don't understand why you collapse that low. Why not have a guy just a little bit higher on the point man? And I know you're trying to take away the seam pass, but there's so many bodies that are just naturally in that area that the seam pass is so hard to execute anyways. I mean, I know that you have to pick your poison when you're on the penalty kill generally. I just think the Jets make it so easy for the other teams that have nothing but time. They don't have to have any quick reactions. And when you're playing a team like Vancouver, a team that is struggling, a team that has no confidence. I mean, you could see they barely held on for dear life to win this game. Despite being up 3-1 with 2.5 minutes to go. When you play passive and you allow them the time to settle the puck down and pass it back and forth, and just to sort of be calm about it and not sort of feed into their panic, I think you're helping them more than you're helping yourself. And that's a big problem with one of the with that I have with the Jets penalty kill. Make the other team make a play. And that's what the Jets penalty kill never really requires another team to do. And that to me is not how I would structure a penalty kill, especially to your point, Ezzy, and Dave, I want your comments on this. To your point that the Jets have some talented penalty killing personnel, that I don't think you allow them the freedom to do what they can do as well as they can do it, given the limitations of the system. Dave?
What's that?
I was
expecting Ezzy to jump in there.
No, he was throwing it to you, but hey, I'll jump in and then you can jump in after me, Dave. But I wonder if you see a Harkins or you see a Svechnikov even on the penalty kill.
Svechnikov was very good tonight.
He was, Drew, and he had some scoring chances and he was setting up plays. Jansen Harkins, I know, is getting some love. He was good. We know he's he had a goal. What was it, 2 nights ago or 2 games ago against Edmonton? They're starting to all kind of melt into one here, boys. But you wonder if one of those guys is going to get an opportunity, because we talked about Lowry and Kopp, that those are your big guns on the penalty kill, and we see so many times, guys, that those two guys get the odd man rushes, right? Like nobody's calling for those guys to be taken off the PK, but you wonder if you get a little bit more of a skilled forward out there. Not saying that Tony Nato and Nash aren't skilled, but you wonder if a guy like Svechnikov or Harkins gets rewarded. Maybe what we're talking about here too is like, look at Edmonton. Edmonton's got the second or third rated PK. Like their power play gets all of the attention because the PK is not as sexy when you've got McDavid and Draisaitl out there ripping goals all the time on the power play. But you look at it and they are aggressive. Like they are hunting the puck out there. Like they're trying to force teams to make good plays, like Drew said. And it's too passive. And how many times do you see just point shots coming in with some traffic, or you see a guy that's got a little bit of time and space and he comes in and he scores a goal coming in off the point. So it's a real problem here, guys. Like the Jets are a top team in the Central, a top team in the West. So the sky's not falling here. That's not what we're saying. The Jets are still an elite team. I think we all agree they're a top 10 team in the league. I'm not talking about, right now. I'm talking about, just how they stack up against the rest of the league. But right now, the penalty kill is a huge issue. So that's something you got to figure out. And maybe, Dave, they decide for the next game against Pittsburgh to put a couple new guys out there on the second PK unit.
Yeah, I mean look, as it can't hurt because what they've been doing right now, and who knows? I mean, Eric Dubois, Mark Morrison, the head coach of the Moose, credited him with what they've been able to do. So maybe they have a cross team promotion or conversation, to figure some things out and see what's going to look good with the Moose and what's working with them and why they can get it working with the Jets, but. I mean, or maybe they need to bring Eric Dubois up and say, okay, we'll have Dave Lowry and Eric Dubois on the bench. We'll just really keep it as a family thing. Although, I mean, Eric Dubois may not want to leave the Moose given all the young defensemen he gets to work with on a daily basis. So that's probably not so enticing. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of the situations where I don't want to say we've talked it to death, but I mean, this is a blight on a team. And look, we know in the playoffs the penalties generally dry up, right? Some of the things that were called tonight wouldn't be called in the playoffs, which is another thing to talk about because
Logan Stanley, right?
Yeah,
that one stood out to me. You could probably not called that one.
Yeah, no,
I didn't think it was a good call. I mean, sure. I mean, I guess the puck, he didn't have control of the puck, but you could have let that one go, I thought.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, especially. I mean, and don't for a second tell me that the refs don't call it based on game flow, because anybody with a pair of eyes knows when a team is likely to get a call. So I mean, Tim Peel getting fired for what he said on the mic was just because the NHL hates Tim Peel fundamentally, and they've hated him for a long time. This happened, of course, was that last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, the refs definitely call penalties, and they like the number to look pretty even at the end of a game.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, anyone who's denying that is doing so disingenuously at best.
Yeah. So. I mean, look, there's just no doubt about it. I think that's what we're coming to, and that's what I think. So yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter though. I mean, you still have to get better. You can't be a team that wants to compete for the Stanley Cup and have a penalty kill that atrocious. I mean, look, we've gone over it. I remember we've looked at the numbers in terms of Stanley Cup champions and what you have to have, whether it's a top ranked power play and a top ranked link. You look for trends, right? You look to see, okay, what are the last 10 years of Stanley Cup champions? Where have those teams ranked in terms of, their penalty kill or their power play? And it's interesting because you'd think automatically, they have to be a top 5. It's not always the case, but you can't also it doesn't correlate, but you also can't be a 30th ranked team. You have to be better than that. And so look, I mean, on a positive, the Jets can only go up from here. You'd think it's obviously not true. They could still go down, but realistically, they're going to have to start figuring that area out because a lot of the other areas of their games are working. As he said, you're a team that's 13 of your last 15 games, you have points in. And obviously some of those are losses. So you've still lost games, but you've in the NHL, because of the loser point, all that matters is that you're adding points to the standings bank, and that's giving you a chance to be in the playoffs where you can do anything. But like I said, one of the areas of concern, which we knew it was going to be the penalty kill, and it's proving to be that. So, that's a big area of concern and something they're going to have to continue to work on and get better in, and try and show be dynamic. I think Drew, you hit it on the head. Like the passive nature of what they're doing isn't working. So they need to do something. They need to do something different. And if they don't, and they continue to allow goals that kill the momentum of the game or take games that are winnable against a fragile Vancouver team, Ehlers gets that goal, suddenly they're a little bit nervous, right? Even though they've got the lead, even though they have the lead, Vancouver is fragile. And then you give them opportunity because of the what Wheeler does. Yeah. And then suddenly
he can't do that.
No, I know. And suddenly they're back in the game.
Nothing to do with the play. Like it was a very weird, it was careless and just completely avoidable.
Irresponsible. Like, what is the best case scenario in that situation? He's not going to steal the puck from Ekman Larson there. I mean, maybe he slows him down a little bit, but it's not like that was a play that, if executed properly, is going to lead to a scoring chance for the Jets. It was just, I mean, look, they're human, and I get that. And I talked about it on last night's post-game show, and I've talked about it before. The fatigue factor is more than just physical fatigue.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Drew. Yeah, like it was kind of like a penalty that you take in the second period of a game in which you're in the second game of back-to-back, right? Like that's the only explanation I can come up with, because like I mentioned, like I thought, Connor Dubois and Wheeler, especially as even the first period, I agree with what you said earlier. I thought the Jets were the better team probably in all three periods, really. And when you consider that they just played last night, and it was a game that obviously went to extra time, right? Like you think to yourself, like, well, first off, that shows you how bad Vancouver is. Like that defense is just horrible.
Look, where have we before seen a team get absolutely caved into their own zone, rely exclusively on special teams and excellent goaltending to win games? Does that sound familiar? Does it sound like the Winnipeg Jets of the last couple of years?
You're talking about the 2020-21 Jets right there.
Absolutely, that's what I'm talking about. Featuring none other than Tucker Poolman, and before him, Tyler Myers. Although they were a better team when Tyler Myers was still there. I mean, it looked like a Jets team from last year, where they rely on timely power play goals and excellent goaltending from previously Connor Hellebuck, now Thatcher Demko. I mean, look, there's more to like about the Jets game tonight than there is to like about the Canucks game tonight. That being said, the result, full marks to Vancouver for the result, because the reason the Jets lost was self-inflicted.
Right.
That's the problem. It's self-inflicted. It's self-inflicted by the captain of the team, a guy who, look, I mean, the fan base is clearly very hard on Blake Wheeler. And a lot of that has to do with the salary that Blake Wheeler is getting paid. Now, that's not Blake Wheeler's fault. We've said it over and over and over and over again on this show, that take the salary out of the picture.
Also, I agree.
If somebody offered me $8.5 million to do this show, I would gladly take $8.5 million, and I wouldn't necessarily guarantee them that the quality of my performance is going to stay at the same level each and every game.
I would hold out for more if I were you, Drew. I think you could get 10 or 11.
I'm pretty sure if Drew was getting paid $8.3 million to do this show, he would just sit there without a shirt on, eating a block of cheese the entire time, saying absolutely nothing.
What do you think's happening after the break? After the break, it's midnight. That's the cheese hour. That's the cheese witching hour. That's when I go topless and eat cheese.
Oh boy!
But,
thankfully, that's when we shut the show down.
And to further your point there, I mean, that salary is not changing. It's not like, Wheeler's got 3 years left on his deal, or 2 years left on his deal after this year.
One.
So guys, he makes $8 million a year. That's an obvious one.
Again,
there.
Here's the key.
Where he's best suited on this team right now, because I think he's playing pretty well. But I don't think any of us expect that line to stay together long term. I just don't think that's a fit for him.
Well, no, I mean the reality is when Paul Stastny's healthy, and you've got Lowry, Stastny, and Wheeler, that's a totally sufficient third line. And I think
sufficient is underplaying it, but I agree.
Yeah, but my point is that, and again, I know people don't believe it, but I really don't think Blake Wheeler would give two shits about being the third line winger on this team if it means the Jets have a better chance of winning the Stanley Cup. So I know people are pissed at Wheeler, and they're not. I mean, they're expecting a guy who was producing 90 points a season, and you know what? As a guy gets older, that's just not the reality. So, I mean, if you want to get mad at the money, then you have to get mad at Kevin Cheveldayoff. He's the one who agreed to this deal. But if you
want to get mad at the usage, you have to get mad at Paul Maurice.
That's right. And so it's a function of figuring out where you can have Blake Wheeler be the most successful player for your team, and that is reducing those minutes, especially given the fact that he was symptomatic, had COVID. That obviously took a toll on him, cut him out of, a week of training and playing in the season. And I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy. I just think that that's where the team needs to be, and the coach specifically, this is on Paul Maurice, needs to be like, listen, like, we need to put you in the best situation that's possible for you to have success. Well, and not necessarily, again, to switch up the Dubois Svechnikov, Connor. I mean, again, like I said, as long as they didn't break up Connor and Dubois, I didn't really care. But just to get
Svechnikov was the best Jets forward through the first 25 or 30 minutes of tonight's game. He had 4 shots in the first period. He had 5 shots, including that golden opportunity, early in the second period. If you see a player playing that well and you see another guy struggling, who just doesn't seem to have it, that's the opportunity. That's the time as the head coach. You need to realize where your team is at in that game, and you need to make that switch. You need to put Wheeler back on that third line, play him with Lowry and with Harkins, and bring Svechnikov up and reunite him with Dubois and Connor, especially when he's going to the degree that he was going early in tonight's game. He was flying out there. Svechnikov looked terrific. It just, I know that Paul Maurice and Blake Wheeler have a love on for each other. And I know that they have the mutual respect society, and I get that, and it's great, and it's everything else. But at some point in time, Paul Maurice needs to realize where his team is at in the course of tonight's game, make that switch. Don't put Blake Wheeler in a position where he's clearly struggling. I mean, that's just what it is. You're putting him in a position to fail the way you're deploying him, especially in the second half of a back-to-back. Why not use somebody with some younger legs in the second half of a back-to-back, as opposed to continually trying to squeeze the last little bits of juice out of Blake Wheeler when he clearly just did not have it in tonight's game?
Well, and you mentioned earlier, like, the Jets don't get a power play. So we know that, that's where Wheeler, makes hay, right? Like, that's where he's the most effective offensively. And, I'll repeat it. Like, I thought he was pretty good tonight. I was just looking at his, even strength Corsi, and it was 57 or something like that. Like,
but then all the Jets had the Jets' entire team. Corsi was individually was way above 50%.
Well, and then that speaks to where this game was at 5-on-5. The Jets generated a lot more scoring opportunities. I agree with you, and we got to give credit to Harkins on that pass to Svechnikov. That was 15 seconds or so into the second period, Drew. I agree, that was a really good scoring chance. So Harkins deserves a lot of credit. So yeah, like, Maurice has to figure out, and he's got some time, right? Because the Jets and Penguins don't play until Tuesday.
Monday.
Oh, pardon me. So Monday. I mean, I thought it was still, you've got an extra day there, right?
Yeah. Well, they have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday next week.
So for next
put that in your schedule there, Mr. Ginsburg.
Right, I will. And next week going forward, and Stastny, we've talked about this already. Like, he's got to get some practice time in, at least one practice, preferably a couple, right, Dave? So when Stastny comes back, the lines are gonna, the blender's gonna be out even more. But yeah, I mean, look at. I think Wheeler has been better, and yeah, we do have to cut him some slack with the COVID situation, right? Like, people don't want to cut him slack, and they say, well, he makes $8 million a year, but I mean, that does have an impact on someone, longer than 2 or 3 days, right? Like, this is a virus that, even if you're vaccinated, it can really suck the life out of you, right? So
then that, and I don't have any disagreement with what you just said there, Ezra. Then it's up to Paul Maurice to do that. It's up to Paul Maurice to, make what might be a difficult decision for him, and not to bench Blake Wheeler, not to sit him down.
Nobody's calling for him to be benched
and make him a healthy scratch. I mean, we're not. Nobody's advocating for that. There's a role for Blake Wheeler to play on this team. And to Dave's point, when Stastny is back and when Lowry, Stastny, Lowry, Wheeler line should be immensely successful. But there's also no reason why, given how bad Vancouver is, first of all, there's no reason why tonight a Lowry, Harkins, Wheeler line wouldn't have been successful as well. Or even a Lowry, Svechnikov, Wheeler line tonight wouldn't have been successful. Just, make the switch in your lines, especially. I mean, I think it just sticks in everyone's craw a little bit when Blake Wheeler takes that terrible penalty. The Canucks score on the ensuing power play, and then Wheeler is immediately back out there for the next shift. And I know you're not going to necessarily bench him. You're not going to, sit him down for the rest of the period. I mean, that's not going to be to the benefit of anybody, especially on the second half of a back-to-back. But, there should be there should be some responsibility for your actions. Action, reaction, and then as a result, ramification. That's what I think people seem to probably their frustration is born out of, is the fact that he seems to be, the Jets or Paul Maurice only treats him with kid gloves when sometimes a little bit of tough love might be necessary. Hold that thought. Hold the thought. We'll come back. We'll talk more about it on the other side of the break. It is almost 12:15 in the morning. It's Saturday morning. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show is in about 8.5 hours. So we'll keep it going with the Illegal Curve post-game show. In the meantime, we're going to give away some toques. We're going to give away some bagels on the other side of the break. Dave will be back with the Moose, the Manuk Moose Minute. Much more to come. Stick with us. You're listening, you're watching, you're chatting with the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Whoa, Ezzy, why are you so happy?
I just crushed 2 fresh Bagel Smith bagels with schmear. They're open on Jets home game nights until puck drop.
Didn't you have Bagel Smith for lunch too?
Yes, I did. What's your point?
Come on, Bagel Boy, let's go to the game.
Bagel Smith is Winnipeg's first and only Montreal-style bagel shop located at 185 Carlton Street. Visit bagelsmith.ca.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rollies and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at rollies.com.
Boston Pizza, the perfect place for a drink. Or the new pickle pizza, across from this guy, who's getting his fill of some classic cactus-cut nachos. Next to some hockey fans that just saw a nasty OT winner. Boston Pizza. Enjoy some... What? Look at that guy. Just having a soak, eh? You do you. Enjoy some old fall favorites and some new ones, however you like, at Boston Pizza.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. $12:15 in the morning. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. That's it. We're done. I'm so happy. This is it. We can shut down this entire Ponzi scheme right now. He's wearing the antlers, folks, courtesy of our friend Daniel Fink. It's time for the Moose Manuk.
Just for the record, the Moose.
We all got antlers.
The Moose want everybody to wear
Hook
antlers.
us up, Dave. I want my antlers.
Well, there's as all you have to do is walk 2 flights of stairs. You can have a set of antlers. So
there you go.
The Manuk Moose Minute.
You do it wearing the antlers. You keep those antlers on, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Manuk Moose Minute.
Do we have music?
We're gonna. It's gonna just be a sound of a moose going on behind David the entire time.
We need to talk to Joe from Winnipeg.
Yeah, we'll get some Moose music. The Moose were back in action tonight. So it was another game against the Milwaukee Admirals, 2 of 3 on this 5-game homestand for the Moose. And they came out pretty well. It was kind of similar to yesterday's game in that it was a 0-0 game for a while, but eventually they started getting rolling, built up. I can't even take myself seriously talking while I'm wearing this Moose every time. Every once in a while, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, who is that idiot wearing that Moose hat? This is like an Ezzy thing, not me. But anyways,
hang on. I'd like to take credit for.
It's your idea. Yeah, trust me. I knew something was up when I went there, and Anthony, who's the number 2 communications guy, said, "Oh, we've got a special delivery for you at your spot in the press box."
No, but Dave, I think Drew actually wanted you to wear like a rack of moose antlers.
Well, I mean, I'll go out to like Western Manitoba. I'll see if I can find a moose carcass of some sort.
What do you have? You have a deer head on the wall at the cottage, don't you?
Oh yeah, my wife's family's cottage. Yeah, no, elk. There's an elk.
Elk. Well, I'm pretty. Yeah. Dave, are you willing to wear an elk head for during the Minuk Moose minute?
The Edmonton Elks are too bad, Drew. I don't think Dave can do it.
It doesn't really, comport because, of course, an elk is different than a moose. I mean, Drew. So I mean, it'd be a little bit. I don't want the folks will not take us to be very authentic if that was the case.
Shout out to Elkie, by the way.
Yes, our boy Elkie. So anyway, so the point is that the Moose got going. Declan Chisholm, the 2018 5th rounder for the Moose, he scored his first goal of the season. He's a really interesting player because he's, I read it at one of the what's Cam Robinson's thing? It's Elite Prospects. They had him as one of those prospects that a lot of people don't talk about could end up as a top 5 prospect in an organization. So Declan Chisholm, he scored his first beautiful one-timer set up by Cole Meyer, and then Austin Pagansky, who seems to be heating up a little bit. Why are you laughing, Drew? I get nervous. I guess I get nervous when I hear you laughing. I don't think
I've seen Drew laugh like this in a long time.
It's 12:20 in the morning. There's hundreds of people watching us. Thank you to all of you for being here. You're wearing antlers, and I mean, this is real life, apparently.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'll go back to the Minuk Moose minute if that was your only interjection.
Go for it.
Anyways, and then Declan Chisholm, who had in his previous, I think, 42 games in the AHL, had a total of 2 goals. He scored his second to make it 3-0. So it really looked like the Moose were going to roll. I would advocate that you go to the Illegal Curve Instagram or my Twitter, I see Dave, because Cole Perfetti put on a move, didn't score, would have ended up being a goal of the year type of highlight if he had scored, but he went inside outside, made a beautiful move, and it kind of ran out of real estate, but just goes to show you kind of that talent level of Cole Perfetti. And then the Winnipegger, Cody Glass, and I'm fairly certain he must have had like half the arena as member of the Glass families and friends, because when he scored to make it 3-1, not only they show the highlight on the Jumbotron, which generally it doesn't happen for the visitors, but it was just, it was a lot of, you could see he did the little monkey off his back. And then it started to get a little bit nervous for Manitoba because the Moose gave up a second goal to make it 3-2. Then folks did something that they shouldn't have done. And I am will have to say strenuously against it. They started doing the wave. And when you do the wave, bad things happen. And sure enough, shortly after the wave began, the Admirals tied the game 3-3, came back, tied it. Never a good thing. However, Christian Reichel, who is probably one of the hardest working players, he scored with just under a minute to go to make it 4-3. The Moose keep rolling along and keep winning. So a lot of good things happened with the Moose. Their penalty kill, like I said, they gave up a goal tonight, but they have a top 4 penalty kill, came into the game as the number 1. So a lot of good things, and they're off tomorrow. They were going to take tomorrow off. They're going to be back in action on Sunday. I saw one of the questions, I think T. Conapoli asked me about Arvid Holm. He's not early yet. Well, soon we will be. Arvid Holm had a decent game. I thought, it was going to be better. He gave up the first goal to Cody Glass was a 3-on-2 breakdown. And then the second goal was one that Declan Chisholm gave the puck up for behind the net. So it was okay. He didn't have his best game, but hey, he still picks up a win. And he like, some of the other guys who are coming over from Europe are adjusting to the North American style of game.
And there you have it, folks. 12:22 in the morning, the Manuk Moose Minute, which I still can't wrap my brain around saying
It's the
properly.
best minute on the internet right now. It's
It
hot.
is the best, and now that we have antlers to wear on his head, it's even.
Well, I
it's
think
even
that's a
getting
one and
better.
done. I think maybe we'll put the antlers in the background. They can be like
You can put them up on the wall. You got that big gray wall behind you. Just stick them up on the wall there.
Wait, you see that wall is gray?
Well, like a brownish. I mean, again,
No,
my
that's a
vision
little better.
is pretty lousy, but
definitely an
whatever
earth tone.
color it is.
By the way, just to answer Paul Adette's question about who's the best Moose player so far this year, from a forward perspective, I'm going to give it to David Gustafsson. And one of the things I noticed with him in the first period, there's just no panic in his game. And I'm not trying to create a controversy to get people to be like, call him up because he's better than Riley Nash.
You realize you have that power, though, Dave.
He probably is. But I will say that, like, he's just the kind of guy who just, like I said, he doesn't have a panic. So if he's being attacked, rather, a lot of guys will just like hot potato and dump the puck away. He really does. He just turns his body, absorbs the hit, and then just calmly gets rid of the puck. So look, there's elements of his game that need to be worked on, but his 2 goals last night, Derek Meach, who's obviously pro hockey player or retired pro hockey player, he saw that shot as an NHL caliber shot, the second goal that he scored to make it 6-2 for Manitoba last night. So there's really a lot to like from David Gustafsson's game, and he's a big part of their PK. So him and Christian Reichel actually have formed a really good dynamic pairing in that regard. So I think Gustafsson is no question about it, is that next forward who's going to be called up from that perspective. And then from a defensive perspective, Ville Heinola had a good game tonight. He fired 5 shots on net, I think that was his final total. So he would probably be, I mean, if they need a left side guy, if they need a right side guy, it'll be Kovacevic, who also look good. And I also have to mention Dylan Samberg. He played his second game and he looked really good. Mark Morrison, head coach of the Moose, he mentioned how good he thought Samberg looked, and he rang one off the post and really good on the penalty kill yesterday. So there's another Jets draft pick who's looking good on the back end.
Did the Manuk Moose Minute just have a break and then restart, or did I have a stroke, or what happened there?
One minute is not enough.
I think I passed out for a minute. And it was still going.
Manuk Moose hour.
Hold on. Now someone wanted to know what
tomorrow.
Okay,
save
fine.
it for the morning.
Oh no! Actually, technically, someone asked me at the end of the show about Dmitry Rashevsky.
Tomorrow.
So okay, fine.
Tomorrow.
2021 5th rounder for the Jets. I got a lot.
Dave, put the antlers back on.
It's not even tomorrow. It's just 8.5 hours from now with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll do some more Moose talk on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
I played really well. I mean, it's exciting times, right? Like I saw Dave was talking about the Cole Perfetti move on the blue line. He posted the video there. Like there's just some really good players right now that are going to be in this Jets lineup like very soon. And you think about it, right? Like Stastny is the only player that's injured right now. So it's just a matter of time before, Gustafsson, Perfetti, Heinola, one of these guys get called up. So I love the Moose Manuk Minute.
People want the antlers back on. And put the antlers back on while Ezzy tells us who is the winner of the Bagel Smith Bagels for in tonight's post-game show.
Well, let's do the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment first, because I've got that queued up here. We're going to give it to and Dean. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. Tokarski.
I read it as Tokarski.
Dean Tokarski. Tokarski. It might be. I mean, it's kind of a hard name to pronounce there, but his comment was from 12:07.
Especially if you can't read, apparently.
Well, no, but it's. Well, how would you pronounce that? It's Tokarriwski. So Tokarski.
Well, he said perfect.
It's actually a pretty awesome last name, I got to say. Dean, you're going to win the Tough Duck Toque. So just send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com with your mailing address. And the comment is from 12:07. My concern with 25, 17, and 26 is, are they fast enough? Can their smarts make up for the lack of speed? So that was talking about 25, 17, and 26 is Lowry, Stastny, and Wheeler. So we were talking about that line possibly being a third line when Stastny is back. So I like that comment from Dean. I apologize for butchering your last name there, but yeah, send me an email and we'll send you a Tough Duck Toque.
Don't feel too bad, Ezzy. I still have to double check I've spelled your last name correctly, and I've only known you for 35 years.
Everybody spells Ginsburg with an E. It's with a U, but it happens all the time. I don't really understand why, because it's not like it's a common last name or anything like that, but
most people, people that don't know me, the vast majority of people who don't know me, and if they happen to call me, they ask to speak to Mr. Mindel. It's happened my
And
entire
also,
life.
a lot of people say Mandel, which I don't get because it's clearly Mindel.
Well,
And
it's Mindel. I never quite understand because it's spelled clearly Mindell, like farmer in the dell. So I don't know where Mindel ever gets in here. But I guess now they're just going to call me Skippy. That'll just be how I'm known as just a one name sort of guy.
Hi
Instead
ho
of
the
having a bit of
Dario,
a
Drew.
name.
The Assiniboine Downs once addressed mail to me as David Manule, which I sounded a little bit like manure, so I was kind of into it.
I was
I
going to say
prefer
David.
David
I was
Mink.
going to say Mule.
I like Mink.
Mink.
But mink is there are minks, so
That's true. What about bagels, Ezzy?
We're going to give the bagels to Trevor Leahy. Trevor, first off, Leahy from Trailer Park Boys, I love. So I think that might not be his real name, but it could be his real name. But yeah, Trevor, send me, if that is your real name, then just let me know, Ezra@illegalcurve.com. And then I will forward your name to the owner of Bagelsmith Bagels, 185 Carlton Street. But we see you a lot here in the chat. You are a supporter and a viewer of IC, listener of IC. So we're going to hook you up with some bagels, half a dozen bagels.
There you go. Some big nights for Dean, some big nights for Trevor, a big night for the Vancouver Canucks as well, and a big night for anybody and all of us who wanted to ever see Dave Minuk wearing a set of antlers. The Canucks victorious in tonight's contest by a 3-2 margin over the Jets. The Jets tried to come back. They fell just short at the end. They'll be back in action on Monday night as they face the Pittsburgh Penguins before they head out on the road for 3 games.
Drew, did you just go through puberty again there?
It's 12:30 in the morning. I'm tired. You didn't do the show last night. I did the show.
Shots fired.
I was
Shots
in bed,
fired.
watched the game, and then went right to bed. And I was very comfy. Got an extra couple of hours of sleep. No, I mean, I appreciate you guys doing it, but Drew, I think you're due for a day off pretty soon as well. So
well, there you go. I'll tell you what. Starting at about 11:30 tomorrow morning, that'll be when I start taking the rest of the day off. After tomorrow morning.
Before everybody takes the night off, make sure that you smash that like button, please.
There you go. Smash the like button on your way out if you haven't yet done so.
I mean, if you wouldn't have said please, Dave, I think some people might not have, hit that like button. But you were very polite, very cordial.
Thank you.
That was very, very kind. It must be the antlers. They're going to your head in being so polite. We'll be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We encourage you all to join us then. Best way to do so, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get alerted each and every time we go live here on the program. Want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. They make this show. They make our website a possibility. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Bagelsmith, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, and our good friends at Rolly's Transfer. Support these fine businesses because they support Illegal Curve Hockey. A big thank you to all of you for joining us in the chat this evening. We always appreciate hearing and seeing from you, seeing as much as we can, of course, in the chat format, but you know what I'm saying. In the meantime, until 9 a.m. tomorrow, Dave Minuk's head is on fire. Ezra Ginsburg is in the bottom middle. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. We'll see you in about 8.5 hours for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Until then, we wish you good night and good luck.